rather make a meal so I can change and act strange. Get a Andre 3000 wig with some bangs. I'll hang and bang your frame like the Predator do. Turn in your...
Tyler with Akua Performance here, coming to talk to you about peptides. So, before we get started, like, subscribe, comment, follow, all of the above. All right, so with peptides, what are they? Well, in short, they're just a sequence, a very specific sequence of amino acids. Think about them as smaller versions of proteins or even smaller versions of hormones that have very, very specific actions on the tissue and can serve very different parts of the body. So you might have one that handles different actions in the heart, one that handles different actions and signaling agents in the liver, maybe the eyes or the brain. If you need a basic introduction to peptides, Dr. Seeds wrote a pretty good book on just like general use of peptides, so I definitely suggest checking this out. Now that being said, we'll talk specifically today about a few different Russian-based peptides, which are more, instead of a single peptide, they're a buffet of peptides. And that would be Cerebrolysin, Activegin, and Cortexin. But before deep diving into those, our next topic's just gonna gloss over some general applications that people might get from the use of peptides, ranging from just everyday average Joes all the way to entrepreneurs and enhanced athletes. So your everyday, just average Joe may just benefit from improvements in just reductions in general systemic inflammation or improvements in cognitive clarity, just things of that nature, and they can get that from that. Maybe they get an improvement from sleep, from a sleep-based peptide. Now you've also got your hard charging entrepreneurs who maybe want to get a leg up on maybe some of their peers, or maybe they have just a ton going on. They're getting a startup off the ground and they really need the extra brain power. Well, you've got things to help with energy. You've got peptides to help with cognitive clarity and focus. So this might help with them. And also people in that position may be going a little bit extra and not getting all the sleep they need. Some of these peptides will help you in a sleep deprived state. So also, you might have an enhanced athlete. If you're a coach out there and you have an athlete who is performing at a very high level athletically or is an aesthetic competitor, they may need these to help with general recovery. They may also need to help with body composition, like increase in muscle mass or decrease in fat loss, or mood balancing. So these peptides can have lots of different benefits. So let's start with Cerebrolysin. What is it? Well, it's a cocktail or a buffet, if you will, of amino acids, of minerals, of vitamins, of peptides and growth factors, all these things coming together to support your overall central nervous system. What are some of the benefits? It's going in there, it has immunomodulatory effects, neurotrophic factors, neurogenic factors, it's improving neuroplasticity, it's neuroprotective. So what do we take from all that? Essentially, depending on your needs and depending on your potential disease state or what you're trying to optimize for, it can help with reductions in inflammation. You may notice the brain fog just cleared. You may notice an improvement in your general mood state. You may notice improvements in energy levels or resetting of the circadian rhythm. There's essentially serving like a fertilizer for your brain. Now, we won't jump into the science. We'll go more into anecdotes later of subjective effects, because really Lucas Anoon from Ergogenic Health and the late rest in peace Leo Rex from Leo Longevity did a great job of laying out the science, what's going on at the physiological level. So again, today we're going to stick more into the anecdote or the subjective feel side of things. Now, moving on to Cortexin, which is really interesting peptide as well, that isn't that different from Cerebrolysin when you look at the constituents that make it up. So, you know, your amino acids and your minerals and things of that nature, but it seems to be more peptide heavy rather than the other constituents like seen in Cerebrolysin. Now, One thing that I neglected to mention earlier was that all of these peptides are made up of extracts. These aren't synthetic peptides like some you'll see on the market. These are extracts from either bovine or porcine sources, either coming from like the brain, some of the brain-based tissues, the cerebrospinal fluid, or the blood. We'll talk about that one in a little while. But cortexin, similar to cerebrolysin, will have some of the same effects. Now, some of the subjective outcomes, as well as some of the physiological outcomes, are going to be a little bit different, but we're targeting very similar actions here within the body. Last but not least, we also have activegon. Now, activegon is an interesting one if you've watched the news in the past. There have been individuals that compete at a very high level. We won't mention names like Lance Armstrong or maybe Usain Bolt that have been implicated with the use of activegon. Not only that, but some very high level soccer players and soccer programs, as well as some of their physicians, have been implicated in the use of it. And why? Well, it has an amazing ability to heal. Not only heal, but it also may have some performance enhancement benefits, helping with oxygen uptake, helping with the health of the vascular system. So really cool peptide for somebody who is both trying to optimize health or improve their performance, or maybe heal from an injury. Now, as said earlier, these are all extracts from either bovine or porcine sources. Because of the sourcing and the method of administration, the bioavailability is very high. So most of what you're using, you're actually getting the benefit from. Now, that barrier to entry with a product like this, they are injectable peptides. And the one activegon does cause some discomfort. So that being said, if you are averse to needles, this may not be an option for you. But if that doesn't bother you and your focus is to either improve your performance, improve or gain back your health, or optimize your current state, then these items are on the table for you. Now, let's talk about first, what are some of the subjective benefits? Like, what do you actually feel from it? Some of this information is stuff that I've personally noticed or feedback from clients. So a shift in mood. No, it's not a drastic shift. It's very subtle, but it's like, if there's a little bit of stress, it's kind of just disappears. It's kind of nice. Just a subtle bump in just general mood level, not just the cessation of stress, but just an actual improvement of mood. Not only that, but increased focus and ability to stay on task, as well as focus endurance. So not being, trailing off by the end of the day. I also noticed personally when I would get home at the end of the day and some of the more mundane tasks that I would try to procrastinate, I didn't mind doing them, which was really nice. Very clear-headed, which is great. It almost seemed to improve my circadian rhythm, my sleep cycle as well, which was evident in the information that I gained from my Aura Ring. It almost seemed to make my sleep needs or decrease my sleep needs as well. So I felt more refreshed waking up and I would wake up earlier in the morning, which was very interesting as well. Not only that, but I did notice a very, very subtle improvement in the gym. It felt like my recovery was on point, especially when training heavy. Felt like my strength endurance was up just a little bit, not just my cognitive endurance. I've also spoken with a couple clients who have a past of addiction and have fallen off at different times, and they have found some value from Cerebrolysin specifically in helping maintain their addiction cessation. Again, I'm not a doctor here, so this is just feedback that has been received from others. That being said, how do you apply this? Well, you're probably not going to want to stack the Cerebrolysin and the cortexin in the same day. You could, but it might be a redundancy or an overkill. So for most of the time, those are separated out, and then the activegon can be run alongside of either one. Now, if you're interested in a protocol, feel free to reach out specifically and we can go over what that might look like for you. So as you may be able to tell from the title, I have a large demographic of clients. My clients range everywhere from just weekend warriors to soccer moms to individuals just wanting to feel better to entrepreneurs to high-performing athletes or aesthetic competitors. Now, the majority of them are high-performing athletes and aesthetic competitors, and most of them are enhanced. So with enhancement does come some negative side effects. There are the obvious ones, but really important in this context is there are some harsh enhancement compounds or strategies out there that are not the best for our brain and our nervous system, and they obviously take their toll on other parts of the body, which can be addressed through peptide therapies as well. But specific to today's conversation and the prevalence that we see of neurodegenerative diseases this day and age, you will notice there's literature out there to support the concerns around the abuse of enhancement strategies and their effect on the brain and causing early decline in cognitive health. So, what are we talking about here? We're talking about brain-based peptides. If you go to Cosmic Nootropics website, they have 30, 40, 50, probably over, between these three compounds or these three peptides, they have probably well over 100 different references that you can use to try and understand what have these been applied for and what positive outcomes do they have for those states. Now, going back to this conversation around enhancement and its negative impact on the brain health and brain longevity, well, we may be able to intervene and stave that off through the use of things like cerebrolysin, activegin, and cortexin. We may be able to prevent or undo some of the damage from abusive enhancement practices. Like I alluded to earlier, there are certain compounds out there that seem to accelerate brain aging and may even contribute to the accumulation of beta amyloid plaque, which is what's seen as one of the markers for assessing the Parkinson's disease, or is it Alzheimer's? Sorry, which one there? Either way, that being said, there is literature also to support the reversal of that plaque buildup when using compounds like the ones mentioned, specifically cerebrolysin. So, hey, maybe we can save some of these athletes, or maybe we can save some of these average Joes with predispositions to some of these neurodegenerative states. So while I would not encourage you to use any of this, what I would say is that if you fit the mold for any of this conversation as it relates to the population of individuals that may benefit from these options, go to Cosmic Nootropics website, look at the list of references they have, validate those references. If you don't like that website, choose another one. Go do your own research. There are other websites that sell some of this stuff, and they're probably just fine. The only one that I've found that I'm comfortable with trusting is the Cosmic Nootropic one, so that they did supply a coupon code so that you can benefit from some of this stuff. Feel free to use it. That's going to be akuo_10 for 10% off. I'll put a link down below just to make it a little bit easier. If you have any questions, go through the website, www.akuoperformance.com. Send me a contact email or put in an application. Otherwise, best of luck. And don't forget, like, subscribe, follow, and comment.